Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSF channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. Tonight, we stay on the controversial matter of the missing electricity company of Ghana, ECG containers, and matters arising. This time, we hear from the man who once was the managing director of the company, talking about Samuel Dubik Mahama. He's our guest tonight, so stay with us. Also, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, receives a roadmap for the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, that's NEDCO. We delve into this roadmap and the recommendations by this 7-member committee. 3 of them, the Minister says, there will be a policies document developed. Also, effective midnight tonight, the implementation of the electronic transfer levy, as a e-levy, ceases following President John Dramani Mahama's assent to some revenue bills, including the repeal of the e-levy. We have more on this for you because just before we came on air a few minutes ago, the Ghana Revenue Authority has issued a statement which would excite a number of you. So stay with us. And that's fresh on the plate here on Ghana Tonight. So as always, an integral part of the conversation. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Breeze.
President John Dramani Mahama has fulfilled his promise on some major taxes to be repealed by assenting to a set of bills that abolished the betting tax, e-levy, and the emissions tax. At a signing ceremony in Accra, the president said his administration is people-driven and will fulfill all promises made in the interest of Ghanaians.
Emissions Levy Repeal Act 2025, emissions levy is gone. This is the earmark funds capping and realignment bill. This is the bill that caps the GET fund and national health insurance levy and moves those resources into the consolidated fund. We promise that we'll take the capping off, we'll uncap them. And so this bill uncaps the GET fund and the national health insurance levy. So the earmark funds capping and realignment amendment bill has been assented to.
Entity concession, multiple lease and service franchise. These are the options the Mahama government must choose from on its plan to privatize the operations of ECG and NEDCO. It follows the submission of the final report by the 7-member committee tasked with finding the most efficient means to allow for private sector participation.
Outright concession for the entire ECG. So that will be very similar to what was tried in 2019. The PDS is along that line. The other one is to break the ECG down into various sections, 4 or 5 units, and let each operate or award each to a private company to lead the operation. That is the option B that we are talking about.
State prosecutors have charged a 35-year-old businessman, Daniel Owusu-Kranting, the prime suspect in the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, with the offences of abetment to commit murder and murder. This was after they informed the court of the decision to make changes to the initial charges. Chief Inspector Nanefwa Banfo told the courts that Daniel led 2 other alleged culprits currently at large to the home of Ahmed Swale. Government has announced 12 different projects to be constructed under the flagship, the $10 billion Big Push agenda, announcing the major infrastructure drive that is expected to open up job opportunities in the country and drive development. Roads Minister Kwame Gavins Abuja says the much talked about deplorable Sunyani Techiman Bole Bamboy Hamile stretch of the N12 will see immediate construction under the agenda. He made this comment after visiting Bamboy in a nationwide road inspection.
Because of the nature of the road and the things that happen along the road in terms of uproad, they are all diverted. And you can imagine what that means to the people who live in this area. So it's quite a situation that we need to deal with. So urgently, we are still on schedule to see this project started, as we said, by third quarter of this year, all the way towards Hamilton. As you know, Hamilton is also strategic because it's a gateway between our neighbors in Burkina Faso.
An economist of GIMPA has attributed Ghana's recent marginal decline in inflation to increased exchange rate stability and a reduction in government expenditure. The nation's inflation rate has shown a positive trend, with a 22.4% marginal decrease observed in March. According to Professor Ebenezer Bugri Anafu, these fiscal measures have played a crucial role in curbing inflationary pressures.
Exchange rate has been stable for the past 3 months. Fuel prices have also been stable. Even there are some of the periods where we have experienced a drop in fuel prices that has led to the reduction in food prices from the 28.1 to 26.5. Another factor that could also account for this, government has been very prudent in terms of spending. There's that fiscal discipline, and that has also accounted for the reduction in food prices.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Now, it's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Effective midnight tonight, just about some 2 hours away from now, the implementation of the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, ceases, following President John Dramani Mahama's assent to some revenue bills, including the repeal of the e-levy. We've got more for you, and a development that is just coming through about an hour ago before we came on air. There's a development to this from the GRA, which we'll put out shortly. But earlier today, the President, John Dramani Mahama, has fulfilled his promise on some major taxes to be repealed by assenting to a set of bills to abolish the betting tax, e-levy, and the emission tax, although the emission tax was not implemented because of the lack of calibration of the systems of the Driver Vehicle License Authority, DVLA, that collection entity. But at the signing ceremony earlier today, the President said his administration is people-driven and will fulfill all promises made in the interest of the Ghanaian people.
This is the electronic transfer levy repeal bill. That's the famous e-levy bill. I'll proceed to sign it. Okay, I've just given assent to the repeal of the famous e-levy bill. Now, this is the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025 to remove withholding tax on winnings from lottery, betting, and games of chance. This is the famous betting tax repeal bill. And so I'll assent to it, 2nd April 2025. So betting tax is gone. Now, this is the emissions tax repeal bill. So, Emissions Levy Repeal Act 2025, emissions levy is gone. This is the earmark funds capping and realignment bill. This is the bill that caps the GET fund and national health insurance levy and moves those resources into the consolidated fund. We promise that we'll take the capping off, we'll uncap them. And so this bill uncaps the GET fund and the national health insurance levy. So the earmark funds capping and realignment amendment bill has been assented to. So it means GET fund and NHIL will receive the full amount of their levies. Promises delivered.
Well, that's President John Dramani Mahama. They hear him talk about promises delivered because one of the key promises that they made ahead of the 2024 election was the repeal of the e-levy betting tax as well, abolishing them. He was not the only one who made that promise. The flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Mabia, also made that promise. President Mahama has been elected as president, and he had that obligation to fulfill that promise to the Ghanaian people. And this is what happened today with that signing ceremony that you just saw. But before we came on air, this notice came from the Ghana Revenue Authority, because a number of you were asking, after the signing ceremony, you were expecting that right there, when you do any mobile money transaction, you wouldn't see any e-levy application or e-levy taking from your transaction. But this is what would give effect to what happened earlier today. The Ghana Revenue Authority Electronic Transfer Management and Assurance System, that's ELMAS, will automatically return, quote, a no charge, unquote, on all transactions posted to it by entities from midnight. So after this signing ceremony today, by midnight today, according to this statement that came through a few minutes ago from the Ghana Revenue Authority, their system, the ELMA system, will automatically return a no charge on all the transactions posted to it by entities. Also, the entities they are talking about, the mobile telecommunications companies, who are also the ones who, through this system, charge for and on behalf of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, the charging entities must cease applying the 1% e-levy from midnight on all their channels. Because if you recall, one of the mobile companies' managing director had earlier today indicated that just the signing ceremony was not enough. There had to be systems and structures put in place, and then also a directive from the GRA for them to halt the collection. So this is what has happened. So all these charging entities must cease applying the e-levy, that's even the financial institutions as well, from midnight on all their channels. Now, charging entities must immediately process refunds for any e-levy amounts deducted from customers effective today, 2nd April 2025. Entities are to establish an expedited refund process to handle such cases promptly and maintain proper documentation of all refund processed. Reports of such refunds must be submitted to the GRA. Now, the fundamental question that we ask when we receive this statement, which we're going to be engaging the GRA on from tomorrow to get some clarity, is that this refund But point 3, that talks about a refund, immediate processes to refund for any e-levy amount deducted from customer effective today. Is it from the time that the president assented to these bills? That was earlier today. So right from the morning after the signing ceremony, any transaction that took place and e-levy collected means people should be expecting a refund, or after midnight of today. So yeah, a number of you were asking those questions on social media. Trust that we will stay on this and get some clarity from the Ghana Revenue Authority. But from the understanding that we got, based on the earlier indication, was from midnight. But then again, today is 2nd April 2025. So we'll find out whether this is going to take effect after the midnight of today. And then the point 4 also brings another layer of clarity to what's going to happen. The charging entities are to take the necessary steps to file and pay all outstanding e-levy charged and collected on all transactions that occurred before 2nd April, before today, 2025. All charging entities have to take the steps to file and pay all the outstanding e-levy charges and also the ones collected on all transactions before today, for effective reconciliation and in accordance with Section 33A of the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915 as amended. Entities must continue to post all electronic transfer transactions to that system that the GRA has until further directives are provided. So this is also to the entities. They must maintain electronic transfer records for at least 6 years, as stipulated in Section 27(3) of the Revenue Administration Act. All of this is administrative directives to the various entities that were charging and collecting the e-levy for and on behalf of the Ghana Revenue Authority. But the most important element in the news in this, for all of you watching, is that effective midnight today, the e-levy is off the books, and the electronic transfer levy management assurance system will automatically return a no charge on all transactions. And we're going to put that on the screen right now. And if you go on our Facebook page, also 3news.com, you'll find the details of it. There are other bills as well. It's not just the e-levy that was accented to by the president today, but there were other bills as well. We have the emissions levy that was also ascended to you. You saw the president lift that file. Even though this was not implemented, there was the promise to repeal it or abolish it, so it had to be done. And it's off our books now. And then we had the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025, the Revenue Administration Amendment Bill as well, and then the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025. Some of that had the COVID-19 levy as well. A number of you are asking questions about that. You heard the finance minister, when I sat with him some 3 weeks ago, indicate that there's going to be some stakeholder engagements, but it will be abolished as promised. We'll find out a bit more detail as to when exactly that's going to be done. But Growth and Sustainability Levy Amendment Bill 2025 as well has been assented to. You recall the Chamber of Mines raised concerns about this being increased to 3%. But then again, the government indicated that the economy, they need money to fix the economy and then also do what has been enshrined in that particular budget as was presented by the finance minister earlier in the month of March. But a few people who have been sharing their thoughts on this, but quickly bring in Professor Lord Mensah. He is an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School. Joining us with his thoughts on this. Professor Lord Mensah, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I mean, promise delivered, as you saw the president there. And how would this decision stimulate economic growth? You know, that objective that the finance minister and the president expect. How is this going to happen from where you sit?
Yeah, so we may have to look at it from different channels in terms of consumption, and then in terms of savings that citizens can make out of the the scrapping of the e-levy. We are also looking at it from the perspective of financial inclusion, which has to do with encouraging people to use the electronic platform so that they can be part of the financial network of the economy. So in one way or the other, we are looking at boosting aggregate savings, and in the end, monies will be available to move to other sectors of the economy. In terms of consumption, once, you have this e-levy scrapped, obviously, monies available for electronic transactions are going to increase, and that will also enhance people to consume more. And through that, there's going to be corresponding increase in production. And once production increases, builds up into the profit making, and by so doing, government gets this deferred e-levy tax from the profit that industries and businesses are going to make from increasing consumption. So from where I sit, it's not a complete loss in this economic space, but then it's rather more or less a deferment in taxes that are supposed to be collected, and then in future tends to gain from the government. Government tends to gain from it through increase in consumption and productivity within the economy, and then also enhancing financial inclusion as far as the electronic space is concerned. So the economy is going to benefit from it through these various channels: 1, consumption; 2, savings; and then 3, financial inclusion.
Right. But I want to find out from you, there's one decision, in fact, that has been assented to today, the growth and sustainability levy, that would have the mining and quarrying sector pay a little more to benefit the country in terms of this levy. You had the Chamber of Mines not too happy about it, but they had some engagement with the Finance Ministry. Beyond today, what form of engagement would you expect, so as to ensure that the sector is on board and also buying into the government's objective of raking in more revenue for the greater good of the economy?
Yeah, very, very important. And I understand where the government is coming from. Government has, assessed the economy, and they found, the active part of the economy, and throwing the taxes, increment in those sectors. We have mining and quarrying driving our GDP growth over the past years. And you ask yourself, what is the economic inclusion of the mining and quarrying, i.e. in terms of job creation and other things in the country? So the minister, if you read the budget very well, gave some statistics, and he indicated that there's what we call natural resource rent. And that's the difference between revenue generated from a natural resource and then the cost of, producing, tapping into that natural. And in our country, is hitting around 14% to GDP. That is more or less a profit that the mining companies are making. But then he says that, look, with this profit that, mining companies are making, if you look at what we are generating or as a revenue from the mining companies, we get only 1% of our GDP. So that means that we can increase, the natural resource rent, and then move it from, we can increase the revenue from 1% to about 3%. And that is why he drew in, some taxes there. And I believe that it has to do with engagement. It's a policy. Obviously, once you throw in a policy, you expect that companies that have been making exorbitant profit will receive it with a shock. And so it has to do with engagement and negotiations. And I'm happy the minister gave a range in the budget. He said between 1% and 3%. Yep. So whatever terms, both the government and then the Chamber of Commerce, as far as the mining, industry is concerned, come to a point.
Okay.
I mean, it should be between that 1% to 3%. So negotiation is important.
I get the point, but there's one that I want us to touch on very quickly. If you look at, even when the e-levy was in place and being collected and implemented, based on the Bank of Ghana's data, the volumes of mobile money transactions kept increasing appreciably over the period. And also the value of the mobile money transactions kept increasing over time, even when the e-levy was being implemented. Now the decision has been taken to abolish. What mechanism should be put in place to ensure that real value and benefit is realized from this decision to abolish the e-levy going forward?
Yeah, so now we may have to look at a difference between the intervention of removing the e-levy and how, the trajectory of growth in mobile money transactions are going to behave. So now we may have to, as researchers, we may have to track, to get to know the impact of this new, the removal of the e-levy, how it has impacted on volumes of, trade from now on. And I believe that it's going to enhance, volumes of trade. And once you have, because everybody that is engaging in any transaction or one way or the other, once there's a levy, they think twice before they move on the platform. And I can tell you that with the removal of the e-levy, the transactions below the hundreds and the 500, below the hundreds and the 50s and all those are now going to gain grounds. And we're going to see more transactions at hinterlands and all those places that their income levels are low. So the volumes are going to go up and it will be more inclusive. You see, we measure volumes of increase in mobile money transaction, but the question is, have we ever thought of the widespread or in terms of concentrations, whether the transactions are mainly within Accra or it extends into our hinterland? So if we do a research and we tap into, what is going to happen and get to know that, maybe village to village transaction has improved as a result of this intervention, then we can conclude that, there is a benefit when it comes to the removal of the e-levy. And I know for sure, I can infer that, there's going to be an improvement when it comes to, this type of transactions.
Professor Lord Benson, I appreciate you for this, and thank you so much for, as always, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. He's an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School, joining us with his thoughts on this. Coming up next, after this quick break, we have an exclusive with the former or immediate past managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, that's been in the news for all the wrong reasons for some time now. We're dealing with the losses of ECG over time until we got to know of these missing containers as well. And in studio with me, Samuel Dubik Mahama, immediate past managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, getting to that exclusive conversation. You want to know where these containers are? So stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. Over the last almost 2 weeks, we've been dealing with this rather shocking news from the Energy and Green Transition Minister. First stated this at a press conference that the committee that he put together essentially supported to reconcile documents that they received or inherited regarding ECG's procurement practices over the period. The shocking detail is that some 1,346 containers could not be accounted for by the Electricity Company of Ghana. Now, after this pronouncement at that press conference, the National Security was put to task to identify the whereabouts of these containers. Because if they were at the ports, how did they vanish? That search led to a number of them being identified, some at Bong, with some Chinese saying that they own these containers and the contents. Understand, another 40 containers were identified somewhere in the northern region as well. How did these containers get into the hands of these people? And there are fundamental questions being asked about the ECG's procurement system that they have been practicing. Well, Samuel Dubik Mahama presided over the affairs of the Electricity Company of Ghana for the last at least 2-3 years before this administration came into power. He's with me in the studio to answer the questions that you, the consumers of power, and indeed the Ghanaian taxpayer, has been asking regarding this container heist. Samuel Dubik Mahama, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Where are the containers?
I like how you put it, the container heist.
It is indeed.
Honestly, I want to say I believe strongly the containers are at the port.
The containers are at the ports.
And they are within the control of, because before I finish that statement, there are only two entities that have control of those containers. Let's bear in mind that the minister went into the port, a restricted area.
But I'm sure, I don't think he went in there all by himself without any permission.
Yeah, he went into, no, I'm not saying that. Just let me land. He went into a port, a restricted area. Containers have a formula as to how they leave the port. This conversation would have been different if we were saying that the containers were in the custody of ECG and got lost. But that is not the conversation. The conversation is that those containers are at the port. So they are in the custody of GPHA and Ghana Customs. So it begs the question as to, yes, ECG hasn't paid its duties. Fine.
Yes.
So why auction a container belonging to ECG without knowledge to ECG? Because in my candid opinion, that's the only way a container can leave the port.
So are you saying that these containers left the ports without your notice? Without you being informed?
I would say if they have left, I'll be very careful to say, if, look, my brother,
well,
containers
containers
don't get missing. Let's correct something.
Mr. Mahama, so you know what? The containers are not at the ports. You have seen some of them.
You are saying that.
You have seen some of them at Bong in the northern region.
How many?
At least we counted 40. The minister says 40, and other the ones they found at Bong as well.
Let me ask you a simple
question. So they are not at the ports. That's what I want to tell you.
Do you know a container is not like a piece of paper that you fold and throw away.
True.
For international supply chain logistics, a container has a unique number. Now, let me draw you to the committee's work, because that is where I want us to draw inference from. The committee said 1,346 containers are missing. How are they missing? There are processes at the port. Let's go through those processes. Have we spoken to the shipping lines? Have we visited the other terminals? Have we gone through the right channel? Because listen, the last I know, before I left were that containers were auctioned. We did write to GRA to complain about those containers being auctioned.
Containers were auctioned with the content of the containers
yes.
as well.
Yes.
ECG containers.
Yes.
Were auctioned by who?
It would be by the GRA, because when it goes to an unclaimed sector of the port, it's still within the jurisdiction of the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Customs Division.
Okay. So why did they auction those containers?
They would say it's within their purview. They might say the container has overstayed, the container hasn't come, the owner hasn't come for it. Let's say, for example, you order a vehicle from the US or you are importing a vehicle. Okay?
Yes. Now, I think that understanding is clear. So the reason why they auction the containers is because it overstayed.
Okay, yes. That's fine.
So that means that ECG failed to clear the containers.
So the question is, if ECG has failed to clear the containers, is that a good reason to auction the container with no recourse to ECG?
Did you write to the GRA?
There are letters flying. When I was in office, I know I wrote.
And what did the GRA say?
I don't have a reply from that. I have checked my documentation. There's no reply from that I can speak to. Look, all I'm trying to say is our approach to the issue is to help the minister find these containers. As I sit here, the committee completed the job without speaking to me. Yet I am named in the committee's report.
But they spoke to the directors at the Electricity Company of Ghana, is it not?
You spoke to the directors, yet you named somebody who wasn't present.
So you wanted them to speak to you.
So how would you feel if they said no? Let's be fair. Let's not beat about the bush.
I get the point. Right?
No, if you get the point, let's make the point clear.
The reason why this committee, according to the minister, was established was to reconcile information that you left.
Listen,
right?
If you say that again, you are not being fair.
Why?
The minister said he was getting contradictory. I left office on the 25th of September. So I didn't leave during the transition. No, I wasn't part of the transition.
Well, but a number of the issues being discussed were within your period as minister.
There are a few issues discussed in the report, some contracts discussed in the report that were not signed by me. I was not in the office. I have decided not to speak to the committee's report because I want us to fully appreciate the decision or the conversation concerning these containers. The containers were never, yes, granted ECG hasn't paid its duty. For example, do you think Customs will auction a container belonging to Ghana Armed Forces?
So why did your containers keep that long at the ports?
You are not
when you already have from the
containers keeping that long at the port. There are two issues. There was one investigation being carried out by, what do you call it, Yoko, on a group of some containers called the LNR contract. That preceded me before I came into the seat. Again, PDS had staff at the port, also in containers. That was a bone of contention at an arbitration. You have to stay your hand on those things. The moment you touch them, you are liable. The person can...
How many? How many containers?
I don't want to speculate numbers because I do not have the number sheet with me. And again, I left office in September. I remember writing letters to that effect. Yes, I do. I don't want us... Look, Mr. Kansi, let's address this issue for what it's worth. If the containers had come out of the port and they were within the jurisdiction of ECG, yes, ECG is liable for it to get lost. But the mere
question you have asked a number of times, and I said to you that you said how the containers got out of the port was because GRA auctioned them.
I said that is one. I didn't give you. I said that is one, and the conversation veered. Listen to me carefully. I said, let me reiterate this. A container cannot get missing. Wait, let me finish my point. A container cannot get missing. A container can only get misplaced or lost at sea. So there are laid down processes in every port worldwide. All I'm trying to say to you is that we need to have a diligent search, and everybody needs to assist in this. I haven't left this country. I am here. I want to assist because those containers contain critical materials that we need to intensify the network of ECG and also expand the work that the ECG is doing. So for me to say almost it's not only an indictment. It's not only an indictment on ECG. There are 3 state institutions involved here. Let's not drop the ball at one doorstep and say, okay, this is where it sits and that is the end of it. No, not at all. If the containers had been delivered to ECG's warehouse, and then you find those same containers out there in the field, yes.
You see, because you are going ahead of me on a number of issues. Now, I'm sorry. Told you, we have enough time to get into the issues. You indicated that containers don't get missing. Mm-hmm. Per the records of the minister and what we have seen, the containers are not at the ports. So we can only describe them as missing and unaccounted for. It has been traced to certain warehouses, which you say that GRA auctioned those containers. That's one of the ways they got out. Which other way did they get out of the ports?
I am saying, if you are going to consider that, in my candid opinion, and as normal standard and practice, that should be the only way a container can leave the port. So if its owner has paid the duties and all the charges surrounding it, then the container can leave with its owner. If its owner hasn't paid that and it has gone into an unclaimed section for a very long period of time, yes, then the GRA can auction it for what it's worth to retrieve whatever monies they need to retrieve.
And the management, according to this report by the committee, they say your management, the negligence of your management caused the hold-up of ECG containers at the ports, incurring demurrage to the tune of over 909.5 million Ghana cedis.
Well, my candid opinion.
Why did you then lead to this delay, the negligence that led to the delay, incurring demurrage to this tune that we will have to pay?
Isn't it beautiful that you are saying it here on this show? What was wrong with the committee calling me for a sit down, taking my opinion and probably even saying, oh, we've heard you, but it's rubbish? Right now, as I sit here, do you and I know what the next steps on that committee report is going to be taken?
Well, we understand that there's going to be a forensic
that is what we are all pushing for.
And we understand that you are also going to be called in that particular
That is what instance. I am looking for.
So then, but then again, it does not discount the details of the report, even if you were not called. So because the details of the report, from what we do know,
the background of my background, my first love is law. Mm-hmm. I won't come here and give information to a committee that never gave me the right or certain privileges for me to speak. Now, as I walk here, based on this report, you know the country we live in. Mm-hmm. If somebody gets upset and does something to me outside this place, based on what they've read, who would be held responsible?
But would you make yourself available for the forensic
Of course. Look, let's make a point clear. I never schooled abroad. I am homegrown. I believe in this country. I came to work in this country. I worked within this country. Mm-hmm. My success at ECG is clear for everybody to see. And I want to make it known to everybody that I have no intentions of fleeing from the conversation that needs to be had. If we need to solve a problem, let's holistically help the minister to solve the problem. We are all here to assist. What is the issue? Or why would we walk away from an issue of something that is beneficial to ECG?
But then that's a question that is on the minds of many, to the extent that,
so, you see... that's what I'm saying. Look, let me add one last point. So, okay, you finish.
No, before you get into the last point, if you say that because of the auctions that were done, containers belonging to ECG that were procured with the taxpayers' money...
Point of correction.
Yes?
They would be... ECG doesn't use the taxpayers' money.
But
that's another point.
You raise funding to some funds to.
So ECG, you consume electricity, you pay. That is not public funds. The public funds is clearly spelled out in the PFM Act.
But when you generate the revenue, it goes into the national kitties.
No, it doesn't.
But ECG's losses are paid for by us.
How are ECG's losses paid for by you?
So your loss is part of the entire energy sector's debt.
So you see, you are trying to amalgamate two issues which are like chalk and cheese.
You said that your debts are not part of the entire energy
I didn't
sector
say
yet.
our debt. Let's correct that. I didn't say
then
our
what
debt.
are you saying?
I said our revenue, our cash flow coming in, what we collect after the sales of electricity to our customers, doesn't fall under the remit or the ambit of public funds. That's what I said.
But let's go back, because I'm making direct reference to the committee's report. Let's go back to what the committee talks about.
Again,
No.
you
Yes,
see,
yes.
you are trying to draw me into an arena where I have made my point clear on.
Which is,
if this committee, listen
so
to me
you say you
carefully.
don't want to respond to the details of this committee's report.
Perfectly.
But then again, you are concerned by the committee mentioned your name.
Yes,
there.
and at the right time, when the committee gives me my opportunity to speak, the committee can publish the respect that the committee didn't give to me. I am affording the committee that respect. Because even your son at home or your daughter at home, when they do something wrong, you will talk to them. When even it's reported speech outside your home, you are told that your son did A, B, C, and D. When you come home, you will ask your son or your daughter. My point is this. Why speak to a document that I wasn't given the opportunity? When given the opportunity, I will address it accordingly. Because there are so many inconsistencies. Yes, I do admit. But at the right forum, my position here is to say this. Containers are too big a thing for us to use the term loose, missing. They are not missing. They are possibly misplaced, or we just need to take our time and find it at other terminals within the port. Because a careful check or a careful exercise. Because today, this afternoon, I was spoken to about a paper from National Security going to, what do you call it, the port, asking for 700 containers to be moved out. Now, my big question is that I don't even know. Is this 700 containers part of what the committee saw or not? Because this letter is dated 7th March. So there are too many discrepancies that I want all of us to help the minister solve.
Okay, when you wrote to ECG, and we have a copy of, to the GRA, we have a copy of that letter, raising concern about this whole auctioning of your containers. Did they respond to the letter?
No. To the best of my knowledge, I don't remember anything of that sort.
And so, did you follow up to ensure that you get responses?
You see, when you ask such a question, you are cheapening the job at hand that I have been giving to.
Which is what?
As managing director. No, wait. As managing director of the company, do you think every single document I would be able to personally chase after? When other things are coming to you so fast and thick, and there are major things concerning how your customers or how the customers of ECG have to be satisfied, or when there are other issues happening on the ground. Look,
Dubik,
let's be fair. And let me make one point clear. Let nobody say that I'm running away from this document. No, I am not.
If you're not running away from it, then speak to it.
Don't say if. Don't say if. If the committee.
If you
listen. Don't push me. Let's land this thing. You asked for a conversation. Let me answer you. Let me answer you. I won't speak to a detail of a document that I wasn't respected. Would you be happy if that was done to you? Why are you forcing me to do so? Because it's your show? If it's your show and that's where you want to go, I'm telling you, I don't want to go there. If you want us to discuss the issues, look, every family, there's a problem. Every home, there are issues. But let's be honest, when the problem doesn't fall fully at the doorstep, we have state agencies, and the minister has categorically said, let's use the state agencies and a forensic audit to determine the whereabouts of these containers. Let's do exactly that. Because for some of us, we believe our reputations also are what? Are at stake if these containers are not found.
Right. So and that's why I come back to the point that you are so concerned about your reputation if these containers are not found. You wrote a letter to the GRA, you didn't get a response, and you left it there. And I'm asking, and you're saying there were other important issues.
How long was I managing director of ECG?
For over 18 months, 18 to 20 months.
2 years, 4 months, exactly. Now, in 2 years, 4 months, look at the turnaround of the company. Before you start cheapening the conversation, You are asking categorically.
We'll get to the state of affairs.
Don't separate.
You don't want us to talk about the details of the report.
It's not that I don't. I asked you. I said something honest, and I was being straightforward with you. I told you the committee didn't help the minister. The committee didn't treat me fairly. So I do not, out of respect for the committee, I do not want to speak about it because, bear in mind, I may not be able to control myself when I start speaking about certain things in there. And then am I going to repeat the same thing? It will not also be fair to the committee to hear the first-hand responses to some of these things they've given out here. So the minister on this same show, not on this show, but on this network on Saturday said, I will be afforded the opportunity to speak. And I look forward to that day. Okay. So if the committee invites me tomorrow, next week, next 2 weeks, I will be there to share my viewpoint with them. Then, after that, if you call me here to say I need to speak to ABC and D, what would I do?
Let me find out this. What are the processes at the ECG in clearing your containers at the ports?
We have a materials and transport division of the company that is in charge of that. So basically, as managing director, I have a director that manages this directorate. So all of this falls under that director's ambit.
And why did you merge the estate department with the procurement department?
Fantastic question. Again, if the committee had gotten in touch with the company secretary, because as managing director, I can't just get up and merge directorates. No. You need the consent and the concurrence of the board.
So the board approved that decision?
Definitely.
What was the reasoning behind it?
I will not honor that again by giving that here, because if due diligence was done, the company secretary was spoken to, the document would have been provided for them. There are too many things that it was left ajar. One of them, there was no, value for money audit. If you had spoken to the company secretary, you would have gotten all of that. But there are things that the director legal could have also provided, because there are things that are on file.
Is it best practice to merge estate department with the procurement department?
You see,
headed by somebody who, according to the report, didn't have any experience in procurement.
So my conversation to you is this: when you're a manager, when you're a director, it has nothing to do with qualification. It's a management role. If this your question applies, then why are ministers, apart from the Attorney General, who the Constitution is expressed, should be a lawyer? Why are individuals from different backgrounds appointed into certain ministerial roles? It's a management role. So I'm telling you, if the committee had taken its time, spoken to the corporate, the company secretary, there would have been board minutes that led to that decision. And all of this wouldn't have happened.
You are aware of the reasoning
behind that? I am aware, but why do I give it out here? Due diligence. Look, when you are put in a role, in a fiduciary role, there are certain responsibilities that come with it. You're not supposed to do anything that would look like you are giving the dog a bad name and hang it. If I tell you sitting here, I feel it was a witch hunt, would I be wrong in saying that? I would not feel wrong in saying that. But the truth of the matter is, I feel the committee could have done better. I feel this final interim report leaves a lot to be desired. I look forward to the day I am called to speak. I look forward to a day a new report is published. And I am committed to assisting the minister to recover his containers. And I have said that, and I'll continue to say it, because these are stuff or these are goods that belong to the state. We all need to work together to make sure that what the minister's motive is achieved. That is what we need to do.
Did you overprocure?
What is overprocurement in the utility?
So let me tell you what I mean by that.
So again, you are dragging me into the report. If you do your research well, wait.
You're saying you did not. So
I didn't say I did not. I said, you said what is overprocurement?
Did you overprocure?
I said I'm not answering any question related to this. I have said something to you, but it looks like when we go forward 3 steps, you are trying to be smart to bring me back to the document, my brother. If you want us to have a conversation about the processes and structures of how containers are received within the Republic and how containers are given to their owners and how this has no relation to the ECG staff whatsoever, let's talk about that, so that, because it's all about exonerating and allowing us to zero in on where to find these containers. But if you want us to speak to a report where I have told you, there are people, there are smart people that were put on this committee. Don't make me emotional about what this committee has done.
No, but
because I have told you the same thing. It is not even fair to even you.
Okay, but in the ECG, you have a budget and entity tender committee. Correct?
We do.
Was there any point that they approved a particular value for procurement that you had to go back to them?
Do you know that ECG
and deviate from that?
Again, ECG has a procurement manual, doesn't it? The committee report, same committee report, says what? They don't have a proper procurement manual, but that said procurement manual was approved by the board. So again, if you didn't find that report showing you that the procurement manual was approved, and you can write that they didn't have a manual, you would then come up with such what? Such what? So for me, let's be fair. Be fair to me. Let me be fair to the good people of Ghana that I came to serve and the great staff of ECG that I came to serve. I am not here to badmouth anybody. All I am saying is that fairness must prevail. If I was called and I didn't speak or I didn't share what the motives were, because at the board level, policy is discussed. The direction of the company is discussed. Corporate governance is discussed. So let's zero down on that and let's solve that problem.
So everything that we are talking about in this report and the questions and concerns raised about the decisions taken were approved by the board at the time.
Have I said that? You see, stop putting words in my mouth. Stop dragging me. No, I didn't say that on this show. No. Don't put words in my mouth. I said, I am not responding to this. I said the procurement manual of every year is approved by the board.
I said to you, I asked specific questions, for instance, about the decision to merge the procurement unit, and the estate unit. You said that was approved by the board.
I said if they had gone for the board minutes, they would have seen what constituted and led to that decision.
So it was approved by the board.
You are saying it because I said I am not going to address anything. Yes, I'm being mischievous. I'm just telling you the truth.
But then it's not serving your own good.
Why is it not serving my own good?
Really?
I didn't come here to serve my own good. Because the moment
you're concerned about your name and reputation.
No. You don't get my point.
Here saying
you're not getting my point.
To...
And I have said this, and I'll continue to say it. Committee was not fair to me. I am not going to address the committees. I'm not going to be disrespectful to the committee because they were disrespectful to me. We live in a country where the laws of the land work. We live in a country where we are trying to make things better. If you are even if there are people that accused me, there are days that I have to be able to have the opportunity to face my accuser. So at the end of the day, if this is the situation in the report, whatever inconsistencies I have seen, if the committee didn't deem it necessary to speak to me, but will write my name in there, so be it. It's the committee's prerogative.
Did you escalate the non-response of GRA to your letter to the board?
The board at that point in time knew.
They knew about it?
They knew. I had communicated it to the board that we had containers that were stuck at the port, and those containers some had been auctioned by the GRA, and I had written to the GRA. Yes.
And what was the board's position?
Yeah, you have written to them. We are waiting for a response from them.
And that response never came?
I said to the best of my knowledge, and the last time I worked at ECG, I didn't get a response.
And the board did not raise concerns about that as well?
So you see, again, let's not cheapen management or board duties.
But you know, this matter is not cheap.
No, you're not getting my point. I wonder how. I don't know how to explain. Let me explain something to you. Let's put you. Wait.
This.
Have you?
I want to.
If you let me land my point.
You know what?
Oh, Alfred, let me land this point. Listen, on a day-to-day basis in the seat as an ECG MD, you need to enter the place one day to see how when you walk into the office at about 7 a.m., by the next time you realize you have not even eaten, you've not drank water, but you are leaving the place at 9 p.m. You enter, the sun is up. By the time you are leaving, it's late. You would understand that, yes, the number of things that go through. Yes, this same letter was forwarded to the legal directorate. This letter that we wrote was forwarded to the legal directorate. So technically, I don't work in isolation. Okay. So if that's why I keep saying, if there was a response, by now, the director legal should have it.
So with everything that has been raised as a matter of concern in terms of whereabouts of containers and how they get out of the ports and ECG not being able to even account for them. You believe that if you were contacted, maybe clarity would have been brought to bear, and so there was nothing wrong done?
I am not saying that. I said there are containers don't get missing. Containers can get misplaced.
Okay.
Let's all assist the minister and the forensic audit for us to identify the location of these containers.
Okay, the containers have been misplaced.
If we do it and we are short of, and whatever we need to do holistically to identify where these containers are, who took the containers out, because no matter what, a container number would be linked to someone. There's always that trail when it comes to containers. Whoever signs off on the way bills are always there. That is documentation that is easily verifiable. That is again documentation that is easily verifiable even with the shipping lines. So for me, I think the committee failed the minister, and let's look at it in this broad view. And so if that was done right for the minister, I believe the minister would have a better understanding of what is going on. But for the committee to come out with a report, name someone in it, not give the person the opportunity, I'm not going to address it in the public domain. No.
So you say the containers were misplaced.
In my candid opinion.
Good. These misplaced containers did not get misplaced over just a 3-week period or a 2-month period that this administration has been in office.
How would you know?
Based on the details of what, in terms of the auction period.
You see?
And I'm coming. In terms of the auction period of these containers, you would know the period that these containers were sold or auctioned by the GRA, because you wrote this letter in 2023.
So if you are going to be mischievous, the minister in January said 2005.
So I don't think that if you're talking about fairness, there's no reason to say we're being mischievous.
So let's be fair. No, I'm talking about fairness here.
Yes.
I am saying
why do you
there are inconsistencies in the situation. And the inconsistencies do not bring what? Clarity. Let's all assist. And I will continue to say it. Let's all assist to bring clarity and closure to this matter.
The misplaced containers, that's wrongdoing. It's not
by who?
Proper procedure.
Who misplaced it?
I think you should be answering those questions.
It was with the custody of the what? Ghana Customs and in the custody of Ghana ports.
But if they are over time you import containers with content and they are misplaced, and as an MD you don't get concerned about it, how do you expect me to also believe that
from what you are saying,
you are not part of the entire syndicate?
If that's the case, so be it. It will come out in the forensic audit. If that's the case, so be it. Let the records show that Dubik was part of the syndicate. If that is what we are looking for, let's look for it. What would be Dubik's aim to be part of a syndicate to take containers out? Do I live in a container house?
Well,
are my homes? If you have come to my home and it was built with containers, yes, you can say something like that, and people will believe you. But the conversation at hand is this: and you see, we keep digressing on the issue. Containers have arrived for ECG. ECG didn't have money to clear the containers. The containers went into an unclaimed area. Yes, the containers were dead. Some of them were subjects of an investigation. They were there for a long period of time. As they were there for a long period of time, some of the containers cannot be found. How many terminals are there in the, what do you call it, in GPHA? So have we gone to every single terminal to determine whether there's MPS? Don't forget. Well, so let's go through all of this. So if you go to GPHA alone, you are not also being fair to GPHA. Let me finish. So there are how many terminals? There's Atlas, there's other. Let's go through all of them. Don't say I went here and I counted and that was it. Let's go through all of them, or let's go into the system.
So because you classify this as misplacement and not missing, would you say containers found in fabrication companies and warehouses of Chinese were misplaced?
How were they? How would you call those containers missing? How did they leave?
No, I'm saying I'm using your own terminology.
No, yeah, so I'm responding to you. How did the container leave the port? No. If you answer that question, you would know, because we all live in Ghana. How did that container leave the port? The answer to all what we are looking for is how did those containers leave the port of the Republic of Ghana? If we get to the bottom of that, we will find that syndicate.
And so, Dubik Mahama, you are not aware of how these containers left the port as former MD? And you never asked questions?
Do I work at customs?
You never asked questions?
Do I work at GPT?
No. So, you never asked questions until now?
Ask your questions pertaining to the issues at hand. You are asking me how the containers left the port. As managing director, am I in charge of materials and transport? As managing director, is it part of my work, what do you call it, to be at the, listen, if let's solve,
Dubik Mahama, you are not in charge of logistics, but whoever is in charge of logistics and procurement at the ECG reports to you. So what report did they give you about these containers that have been procured by you?
What report did they give the committee?
No. Dubik Mahama, what report did they give to you?
I am asking you a basic question. You put a question. Listen, this is a conversation.
Yes.
This is a conversation that we're having.
And you are asking me a question back.
Why can't I ask you a question back? Because you are trying to digress. You are trying to digress from what I am actually, or what we actually need to talk about. And I'm trying to bring clarity to the matter.
I asked the question that how do these containers get out of the port? You said you are not in charge, or you are not the head of logistics and procurement at ECG. So you wouldn't know how these containers got out.
Do you know how the bureaucracy system works? Let me explain how the bureaucracy. So your director would write to you. So if your director writes to you,
yes,
your director writes to you, then you are on notice, and then now you can find a solution to the matter.
Are you saying the director never wrote to you about this? What was happening at the port of the ECG container?
If you've listened to the trajectory of the matter, he said, sir, he wrote about 2 memos to me. At even a management meeting, it was discussed. We said allocation of funds to the matter is the issue. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if allocations to the funds is the issue, there were other creative ways that we were discussing with the Ministry of Finance as to how we can deal with this issue. And then I left. That's the last that I know.
You talk about funds. 5 million was made available to you.
5 million was
for clearing containers. What happened to that?
Who said it was made available to me? Who said 5 million was made available to me?
That is part of the committee's report. So I'm saying that if funds were available to you,
Alfred, if you are going to work with me, I have told you, do not make reference.
If funds were available to you, because you say you didn't have funds.
You are trying hard. You are trying hard to solicit an answer for me.
You mentioned funds, that there was lack of funds.
I've told you, I gave him an answer. Mm-hmm. Through that, it didn't stop there. I've even done my possible best to even give you more than I wanted to give you, by even telling you that it didn't stop there. There were conversations with the Ministry of Finance. I've told you that. I've even told you that. Was it captured in the report? It wasn't. So for me, don't drag me into that report.
Who approves the request for materials on behalf of ECG?
Who approves the request? Mm-hmm. It goes through a process and then it finally comes to my table.
So you are the final?
Yes, for the requisite materials that are needed, yes.
So you know specifics as to how much in terms of procurements are made by the ECG?
Yes.
I want you to take a listen to your own former board chair when you were MD.
Okay, play it.
This is Alexander Penyomakin.
Okay, play it.
About this syndicate, which you talk about, that if they had contacted you, things would have been different. Take a look.
It's a system problem that I will any day support this minister to embark on reforms. It is true that when these containers come, there is some connivance with some customs officials, and they sell these containers, these cables that ECG needs after the supplier has been paid. They sell the container and then people resell back to ECG. Are we pretending we don't know? Instead of us to pay attention and kill the rots, then we come here, then MPP, NDC, issue at stake is scandalous. It's serious. It's not MPP, NDC matter. All these public institutions, and sometimes some of the appointees of the previous government, you see them even saying that they are professionals. They were not MPP. Now they come here and then they are dining with you. You also have... It's a system problem that I will any day support this minister to embark on reforms. It is true that when these containers come, there is some connivance with some customs officials, and they sell these containers, these cables that ECG needs after the supplier has been paid. They sell the container and then people resell back to ECG. Are we pretending we don't know? Instead of us to pay attention and kill the rots, then we come here, then MPP, NDC, issue at stake. It's scandalous. It's serious. It's not MPP, NDC matter. All these public institutions, and sometimes some of the appointees of the previous government, you see them even saying that they are professionals.
That's the former board chair of ECG.
Yeah.
That you were MD.
Yeah.
So there's some connivance.
How long, when he was appointed, how long was I MD for? You see,
so you are saying missing, that what he's saying
you are missing
true?
The import of what the man is saying. He said what? He said what?
No. Are you saying
let's land
his
the
point about the connivance of some persons within and then also customs officers is not true?
I am answering your question. Allow me to answer your question.
I've just asked you.
Yes, so allow me. That's what I'm telling you. What I just watched was a man telling all of us that there's a problem and that said problem should what? Be what? Solved. And that we should stop making it a partisan problem. As I sit here, by and large, would I be fair to feel like the issues going on is being treated like it's a partisan problem? First things first, when the committee was set up, did you look at the committee's terms of references? The first thing the committee's terms of reference was 2022 to 2024. Who was MD then? If you want to determine a trend analysis, you don't do that short space of time. Will you call that a witch hunt? Let's go back to it. No, yes. Wait. Let's go back. Let's go back to his statement that he made. He said, it is a notorious fact. When I first wrote that letter, it did come out to us that containers that belong to ECG, through some people in there, connived for the containers to have been sold. How did we find out? We found out because outsiders who had those containers were trying to sell it back to ECG. Under my tenure, I never bought any of those containers back. I spoke to GRA. I said those containers need to be retrieved and brought back to ECG. And it's on record within the office that I said I was not buying those containers back. I know he knows. I also know that containers were taken out of the port. But if they say connivance, that should even tell you that if there's a syndicate, why don't we bust the syndicate? Let's stop this segmenting this issue. So I came here to address.
He said,
again, you are doing this your thing again.
No, relax.
I came here. I won't relax. You relax.
You said
I came here to solve. But I'm going further to add that I came here to solve a problem, and the problem solving is that this problem, all of us need to assist the minister, because if you keep dropping names or you keep pointing fingers left, right, center, you might miss the people that need to answer. But again, I pointed out straightforward to you that if the containers were within, had been able to come out of the port and were with ECG, this conversation would be totally different. Because how did you receive such containers and how did they get lost from your yard? But in this case,
that's the exact problem that your former board chair is talking about.
Alfred, are you understanding this problem? You're not. No. I won't listen to him because you're not understanding the problem.
You want to listen to Afenyomarket?
No, I don't. Because the problem he's talking about is not about containers in the yard of ECG. You are mixing the issues.
Listen,
where was the containers? No. Wait. You are using this to waste valuable time. Where were the containers? No, pause. Before I listen.
I had the privilege of chairing the board in July. Because I'm a businessman, the first question I ask myself is that how can ECG award a contract? And when the contract is awarded, all the person does is deliver at the port, present bill of lading, and request for payment. I said, with the greatest respect, I don't want to use a word. This is Parliament. I was shattered. I said, how? And ECG would have to pay. So I realized that ECG was paying a lot of bills when they've not even had access to the goods. And when you ask them, I asked the procurement manager, director of procurement, a question. I said, why did he say, oh, Chairman, this is the practice since. This is the practice. And they will bring you document. I listened to honorable member for Second D, lawyer, you from Second D, question meeting. ECG. I had the privilege of chairing the board in July. Because I'm a businessman, the first question I ask myself is that how can ECG award a contract? And when the contract is awarded, all the person does is deliver at the port, present bill of lading, and request for payment. I said, with the greatest respect, I don't want to use a word. This is Parliament. I was shattered. I said, how? And ECG would have to pay. So I realized that ECG was paying a lot of bills when they've not even had access to the goods. And when you ask them, I asked the procurement manager, director of procurement, a question. I said, why did he say, oh, Chairman, this is the practice since. This is the practice.
That's Abanyomakin says that was the practice. You don't even have custody of the goods. You pay for it. Do you know how? It says your procurement manager said that's the practice.
Are you going to make
that the practice?
What is CIF? When somebody is shipping goods to you at CIF, it's called what? Do you know the meaning of CIF?
Well,
no. Do you know the meaning of CIF? Ask me these questions.
Tell us.
No,
tell us.
Listen, I'm just falling short of feeling like someone is in your ear. Let me be very honest with you. I'm just falling short of saying someone is in your ear.
You tell us.
Because even playing this, you are trying to play politics with this matter.
Well,
you see, if we play politics with this matter,
I don't know why you see it as politics.
CIF, if somebody ships to you, CIF is what? Cost Freight Insurance. So when you give the contract out at CIF, go back. When the guy says there's a history to it or there's a convention, ECG had an exemption. ECG had an exemption to clear goods. Did you know that?
But you
so wait. You see,
come your board chair didn't know this?
Oh, how? You see, be fair to the man. How long was he board chair for?
But he asked a question of the procurement manager. Procurement manager comes.
Well, so you see, again, you are being mischievous again. You are asking me to answer something concerning someone who had a conversation with another person that I was not present.
This was on the floor of Parliament.
But
let me be very clear.
My brother, now, if you go back to the floor of Parliament.
So I don't think that because you are asking for fairness, it would be unfair on your part to also be continuously describing questions that I'm asking of you, so you answer and bring clarity as you want to, as being mischievous. I don't think that's also going to be fair on my part. And I would have you restrain from describing it as that, because we're having a conversation. Now, Alexander Apenyomakin, the former board chair of ECG, made this statement on the floor of Parliament.
Yes, he did.
That he had a conversation, he had questions of the procurement manager in ECG as to why you make full payment for goods that you haven't even received.
There you go again, saying you make full payment. Have you seen a copy of those purchase orders? Because there's a restriction. That is what I'm saying. You see, again, the committee I'll go back to this committee because
this is not the committee, this is the board
chair. Listen, don't go back to the board chair.
Why?
Because you going back to the board chair, you are summarizing a bigger conversation. And you can't summarize a bigger...
I am making specific reference to
you are not making...
the board chair just
if
said.
I give you a CIF I give you a CIF contract. I said, when you come, you give me the bill of lading. When you give me the bill of lading, I don't pay you until the goods have landed in Accra. Because when the goods leave the port of origin, the bill of lading is what? Generated. So as soon as the bill of lading is generated from the port of origin, what then happens? Is you give it, you surrender it. When ECG is notified that the goods have landed in Accra, that is when what?
Payment is made.
And even the payment is not in full. It's what?
So
no, you see, you don't know this. You are asking me.
You are answering the question. So if it's not made in full, then how much is
it's
paid?
in installments. So after the first installment is made, I don't want to discuss the document here because I don't feel that is the reason why I'm here. If you want us to go into details with this, I would grab that document, come and sit here and walk you through it. There's a lot of talk going on.
You should have explained this to the board chair. Because I am playing to you what the board chair said. Unless you are saying that the board chair is ignorant of the processes of the company that he was board chair of.
Those are your words, not mine.
No,
I just pointed out something to you. I just pointed out something to you that he had a conversation with someone.
No, not someone. That's the procurement manager of ECG.
You're not going to make me make my point because
I think that
don't let me feel like you have. Don't let me feel.
Let's be clear.
Let's be clear.
So he said he had a conversation with the procurement manager.
If he had a conversation with the procurement manager, were you there?
I'm taking his word for it.
Yeah, I will also take his word for it.
So
now, if he has landed his point that this is what the procurement manager said, I just told you that ECG has a purchase order, and the purchase order, we need to speak to the purchase order. You are asking me to speak to a 5 or 6 page document that is not before me. I just pointed out to you that said document is a CIF document, and in that CIF document, what do we do in the CIF document? What do you do with the purchase order? Why should I tell you? Because I don't have the document here. If I had the document here and you were cross-examining me or you were questioning me on the document, would that not be fair? I came here to point out something to you. You are taking me into the ambit of procurement. I have told you.
Because that's the heart of the issue.
But why should I have told you I am not responding to this? I have told you, and I continue to say that I am not speaking to the procurement issue. Because if I speak to the procurement issue, I would be granting audience to a group of people who have disrespected me, yet you want me to speak to it in the public domain. And I have cautioned you, but you continue to do it.
But you acknowledge that some wrongdoing was done. And you are saying that you are going to collaborate to ensure that wrongdoing is addressed.
Yes.
Okay. And that wrongdoing that has been done, what did you do while you were MD to address that wrongdoing, which you are seeking to collaborate to have it addressed now?
I wrote letters because the containers were not within our purview. Every single one that came to my notice, I wrote to the agency involved. And when I wrote to the agency involved, what happened? I didn't receive. So I am saying, and I'll repeat myself, that we all need to assist the minister to locate every single container. And that is going to be my mantra. I am not going to shift from it. You can choose to label whatever you want to label. You can choose to follow the committee's report. You can choose to read from what you are reading. You can choose to play the video from Honorable Afenyomakin. But let me tell you something. Containers getting missing at the port, it will be very mischievous for you to link it to the people at the top.
Why? Really?
I said, yes, because it's not part of the person's day-to-day. But even if so, you want to link it to the person at the top. It is only when, unless I sit here and have you been fully notified that when I heard about the containers being auctioned, I didn't do anything about it. I sat aloof and left it. Well, how would that have been? Well, you wrote a letter that was not responded to. Is that my fault? That's not action enough. So what do I do? It's not effort that we're measuring. So what should I do? We're measuring results. If you were me, you said it's a discussion. If you were me, what would you do? No. Have you also cited the document where ECG reported the matter to the police? Have you cited that? You reported the auctioning of the containers to the police. You are just saying it. I'm asking you, have you cited the letter? There's a letter in circulation similar to that. There's one that I have told you, my brother. You are trying to drag me into responding to this report. All attempts, and if you ask me another question that doesn't pertain to how the containers come out, I'll say you run out of your questions. Let's have it. Let's call it a good night. In fact, the more reason why I'm dwelling on the procurement is because that's the heart of the conversation that we're having. Go and read the Attorney General's opinion on procurement. If you've read the Attorney General and on your Saturday show, Edwin Tamaklo exhausted that conversation. Well, we had that conversation, and the proposal was that if there's supposed to be now a review of that position, then so be it. Then they should go ahead. And does the law apply retrospectively? Does the law apply retrospectively? The mischief you are trying to look for, please, let's halt and let's unify and stop trying to look for names. Let's unify and try and solve the problem.
I don't think you talking about a conversation that we are having as mischief. It will be unfair to the Ghanaian people that you were appointed
your comments, because so I served the Ghanaian people diligently.
It is not. I
would say this is a very good conversation for me because I've had a very good conversation with you, and I have been very careful. Mischief. Who told you it's not mischief? But that's your job. You are supposed to be mischievous to solicit answers from me. And it's my job to also make sure that I don't divulge information that I don't want to give out.
Of you to give answers. Now, earlier, you said those pointing fingers at the minority leader. That was what the earlier interview you heard, not here. The minority leader and the former energy minister must stop. Right?
Go for a break now.
Is it one that you still stand by?
I have given you my viewpoint. You've come to sit down with me. You have your own viewpoint. You want to drum your viewpoint on me. I am still standing where I am standing. But you still want to solicit, push your own questions, land your own questions, go forward to wherever it's your prerogative. It's your show. I have told you, I am not speaking to the procurement matter because I don't want to. Because I felt there was a better place. You played Honorable Alexander Fejo Markin's thing. You wanted to draw me into it. I gave you my overview of the matter. You are not satisfied. It's your prerogative. The conversation is that right-thinking people in Ghana read a report, created an opinion. Was that fair? When right people thinking we will read a document and there's an impression out there that the man was spoken to when the man wasn't spoken to. Is that fair? I thought that we were all talking about fairness here. So if that is not fair, then let's create an opportunity where fairness prevails. Because if fairness doesn't prevail, what are we working on? Let's all assist the minister to find the containers.
Aside from the details of this report, looking back, do you think you could have done better as MD of ECG?
I left a company, and the minister has said it in his meetings and also in his interviews. What did he say? When I got to ECG, the revenue on a monthly basis was 450 to 500 million. The money has now tripled. Tariff was not increased by 150%. Tariff was never increased by 1. ECG now makes 1.5 billion Ghana cedis a month. What would I do different? I digitized the company from end to end. I took the company cashless. Let me tell you something. Work, the thing called work is a continuum. You can never say you finished working. Other than that, after today, you don't have to come to work tomorrow. We have done some. It's now somebody's turn to also do some. Yes, we left some of the problems. We couldn't solve it all. We've left some. It's now somebody's turn to also fix those problems, and let's move on.
What would you say to the viewers right now who, based on the knowledge they have of the report, say that you certainly have questions to answer as MD or former MD of the ECG because some of the issues being talked about took place during your tenure?
I will say yes, they are right. They are perfectly right. And at the right place, the right time, the right forum, I will speak to it.
Well, the forensic audit, I understand, will start soon. It's an extended version of Ghana Tonight. There's so much to talk about. Dubik Mahama says he's not going to speak to the details of the report, but then again, there are some aspects of the report that he has spoken to, even if not directly. But this is it to you, the Ghanaian people. Whether he provided those answers needed or not, he says when the Forensic Investigations Committee calls on him, he is going to give the answers. The jury is out there on this, but thank you very much for coming.
Thank you too for having me. But let's all help the minister to locate those containers. It's very important.
My name is Alfred Okonse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.